Guys, two important days to remember. Friday, October 9th, it is the last day to register to vote. And then Tuesday, November 3rd, it is election day. If you haven't registered to vote, please do so before October 9th.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today at the Microreview, where we focus management, sales, and leadership. Today's video is going to be very brief, straight to the point, and short and concise. And yes, I'm speaking to you that have not yet registered to vote, and you just have a few couple of days. So stay tuned. We're going to be interviewing Corazon Pineda Issac. Thank you so much for joining us today, Corazon. I really appreciate you joining us for this segment today regarding the importance of voting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So we wanted to bring somebody involved in the politics world, like yourself, right? You're a councilwoman of Yonkers?
Yes, I'm the majority leader on the Yonkers City Council.
Beautiful. Now, if you could share with our public the importance of voting, please.
Voting is very important because it allows you to choose your representatives. But more than that, it really gives you a voice into how things happen in your community. Local politics are so important in addition to world politics. You know, we have our presidential elections coming up, and oftentimes people only vote in presidential elections. But I want to also reinforce that it's very important to pay attention to what's happening locally in your communities and vote in your local elections. Why? Because on the local level, decisions are made regarding school education, regarding your roads, regarding your cleanliness of where you live, regarding crime. That all happens on the local level, on the micro level, as you know.
The Microreview, baby.
Exactly. So that's why it's so important that people understand who represents them locally and really come out and vote in those elections.
Now, you know, I was speaking to a colleague of mine, right? And they said, well, you know, I'm not going to vote. I don't know much about politics. You know, whoever's the president could be the president. Which, by the way, guys, we are completely non-partisan. Just want to encourage everyone to go out and vote, have a voice, right? And like I was saying briefly, I have a colleague of mine that said he or she is not going to vote because they don't know much about politics, right? And she asked me, how does that affect you? What the president has done to either better your life or make your life bad? I stumbled upon the question because I didn't know how to respond. Can you please educate me on such topic?
Definitely. So sometimes you can feel like the president is very far removed from your day-to-day life, but really there are many things that make it a very important election. So one thing that I think is very important, presidents get to choose judicial judges. So the Supreme Court. So they, as you know right now, after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, now there's a vacancy and the president gets to pick who can fill that vacancy. That's very important because a tilt in the judicial system can really create a lot of changes. For example, judges can vote on a woman's right to choose, Roe versus Wade. And those are the things that's very important. So if you're a woman and you care about your reproductive rights, your right to make a choice, your right to access to medical care, medical decisions, then you really want to know who is being put on the judicial bench, because who's going to vote on those issues if they come before the bench. Marriage equality, right? Many people fall really, really hard to marry who they love, whether that be a man, a woman, whomever. So these are things that judicial systems can decide to overturn if they have the power. So yes, maybe your day-to-day won't change today, immediately, but there are things that change for many, many years, and it's so important. In addition to that, you know, access to medical care. There's so many people right now that don't have medical care or have it through Obamacare, right? And that's something that potentially could change. So whether you are for or against it, it's important for you to vote in an election to choose representatives who are going to represent your interests.
Great explanation. That also, I'm assuming, has to do with the contribution of local leaders in politics also that are somewhat connected to.
Well, definitely there's some connections there and there's some inner workings, but really, you know, everything differs. So for example, the way that local, state, and federal governments connect and interlock is why they're so important. So right now, for example, we're going through a pandemic and the city of Yonkers has a huge budget deficit. So we rely on the states and the federal government to provide funding for us to help make up those financial gaps. Certain governments are more open to providing funding for some things than other things. Other governments choose to fund education more. So again, you have to listen to your elected officials and learn about what's important to them. And if that person is saying we need more funding for education and education is important to you, that's someone who you should support, and vice versa.
Great, great. So, for example, just for our microview audience who understand, let's say, for example, if the state of Florida is a Republican dominant state, would that mean that they have more leeway in terms of getting more funding from the government itself?
Not necessarily. It just means what do Republicans value, what are their priorities, and that's what they'll seek to fund. Right? So if their main priorities are to cut taxes, then they'll be looking to implement policies that will cut taxes. If their main priorities are to provide for people from all different levels of socioeconomic backgrounds. Full disclosure, I'm a Democrat, and I am because I feel Democrats support policies that just don't affect just one group of people. You know, I think that we broaden our policies to support many different people. So we want to support the working class, we want to support the middle class. The reason I feel that Democrats vary from Republicans is that they, I think, target less of the larger pool of people, whereas we Democrats target more people in different brackets.
I fully understand and respect that point of view. That's great.
So when we go out and vote in November, it's not just a presidential election. You're voting for, usually the top of the ticket can carry other elections. So if a Democratic president wins, usually in other places, Democrats can win also because they brought out the lead ticket, brings out more people from the party. If a Republican wins, then other local elections usually turn out to win Republican. And that's important again because we want to make sure that even if at the top of the ticket your person won, other local elections to also be successful in the party that you support because they're going to work together to implement policies that are going to work together. They're not going to go against each other. So for example, when Donald Trump was elected, there was a lot of things happening against the undocumented population. So locals started implementing things like sanctuary cities. Right? And that was great because a local city was choosing to protect undocumented immigrants by implementing something that says, well, if you come in here, we are sanctuary, you cannot, come harm these people and come take them to jail. Then the federal government went ahead and decided that they were going to find cities that were sanctuary cities and reduce funding. So that's why it's important to still have parties that you support win the local elections. That way they can work together from the top to the bottom.
Now let's talk about voting early, right? How reassured that is in our country?
Voting early is actually something that I specifically fought for. It's very secure. It works just fine. And the reason that we wanted to have voting early is because we wanted to open the accessibility of being able to vote. We understand that not everyone gets off of work on that Tuesday of the election. Many people work very long hours and they can't vote before work or they can't vote after work because they have to get home to responsibilities, to children, to cook, to many different things. We've seen studies in other states that had it, that more people come out to vote when they have options as to when they can vote. So that's all that voting early is doing. It's allowing you the option to say, there are 2 weeks before the election where I can go vote 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at this location. And that means that you choose on your own time when you go and vote. So you can choose it on your day off, on a day where you get out of work earlier, where you don't have to cook that day, or your husband can stay. You can alternate with your spouse or your living situation, and that's just the reason why voting early is so great and it's important.
Now I noticed that this year when I actually went to vote, I had to go ahead and find out where is the new location because I noticed last year it was, and a couple last year it was at a particular location. When I went to vote this year for my local community, it was a whole different ballgame.
That is because of the pandemic.
Okay.
So because of the pandemic, we had to close, the County Board of Elections had to close a lot of polling sites, and they had to condense many places. So
now, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what can we do to make sure we find out where we need to vote?
You can reach out to your local county board of elections. There you will find all the information as to how to register to vote, where to vote early, where's your polling site, what elections are coming up in your area.
So Corazon, where can people find out regarding where to register to vote, for example?
So check out the link below and you will find voter registration, voter information for Westchester County and New York State. But if you are in another state and watching this video, I would just, Google where can I go vote and just research your local county board of elections and you will get all the information that you need.
Can you register to vote in the DMV, for example?
They usually have voter registrations at government offices. So for example, if you come to my office in City Hall, so City Hall, places like City Hall, municipal buildings have voter registration forms.
Great, great.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And guys, now I'll leave you with this small bonus regarding the importance of voting and registering.
Your vote is your voice. Your voice on issues that affect us, such as healthcare, education, employment, housing. All of these things are extremely important. By voting, you also decide where your tax dollars go. For instance, funding for healthcare or social service. If you do not vote, you do not have a voice. So please get out there and vote.
With voting, we can try and help change certain ways that society works. Go vote today. Why not? Just do it.
You go out and vote so your voice can be heard. Vote early, vote by mail, however you want to vote. Make sure to get out there so our democracy can represent your views.
Guys, 2 important days to remember. If you haven't registered to vote, please do so before October 9th, November 3rd, Tuesday for Election Day, or vote early in your local voting places.
Thank you and see you next time.